The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was built to make visitors feel small. Its ceiling reached so high that clouds sometimes formed near the top. The walls were made of black stone taken from dead stars. Thousands of alien delegates sat in floating chairs arranged in a perfect circle, all looking down at the single platform in the center. On that platform stood a human woman named Una Park. She was not tall. She was not dressed in fancy clothes. She held only a small datapad in her hands. Around her, creatures of every shape and size watched with bored eyes. Some had scales. Some had fur. Some had no solid form at all. But they all shared one thing. They did not care about what this human had to say. "Hi." Counselor Bren, of the Volari, leaned forward in his chair. His silver skin caught the light as he smiled. The Volari were the oldest species in the council. They believed they were the wisest too. "Ambassador Park," he said, his voice echoing through the hall. "You requested this audience. We have given you 5 minutes. Speak." Una looked up at him. Her face showed nothing. No anger. No fear. Just calm. "Thank you, High Counselor," she said. Her voice was soft but clear. "I will not need 5 minutes." She looked down at her datapad and began to read. For 300 years, humanity has been a member of the Galactic Council. In that time, we have followed every rule. We have paid every taxes. We have sent our young people to die in wars that were not ours. We have watched our colonies stripped of resources. We have seen our merchants cheated. We have heard our people called primitive, stupid, and worthless. The hall was silent. Some delegates shifted in their seats. Others whispered to each other while UNA continued. "We asked for fair trade. You laughed. We asked for equal treatment. You ignored us. We asked for justice. You told us to be patient." She paused. "We have been patient for 300 years. That patience has ended." High Counselor Brent's smile faded slightly. "Is this a threat, Ambassador?" "No," Una said. "This is a goodbye." She put down her datapad. "Effective immediately, all human citizens will withdraw from Council space. All human ships will return home. All human businesses will close. All human embassies will shut their doors. In 30 standard days, there will be no humans left in your galaxy." The hall erupted. Delegates shouted. Some laughed. The Kresh warriors banged their armored fists against their chairs. The Toruan merchants whispered urgently into their communication devices. Bryn raised his hand for silence. It took a long time for the noise to stop. "Ambassador Park," he said, still smiling but with cold eyes. "Where exactly do you think your species will go?" "You have one star, one small planet. You depend on our trade routes, our technology, our protection. Without us, you are nothing." For a moment, something flickered in her eyes. It might have been anger. It might have been pity. "You are right, High Counselor. We have learned much from you. Thank you for the education." She bowed once, turned, and walked out of the hall. The delegates watched her go. Then they laughed. The sound filled the great hall like thunder. "Let them go," Bryn said, waving his hand. "Let them crawl back to their little world and starve. In a year, they will come begging for us to take them back." The council agreed. They moved on to other business. The matter of humanity was forgotten before the session ended. But in a small office deep within the council station, a young analyst named Tay Rim did not laugh. Tay was not human. His species was small and forgettable, which made them perfect for intelligence work. For 10 years, he had studied humanity as part of his job. He had read their history. He had watched their behavior. He had learned things about them that the council ignored. Now he sat at his desk, staring at the recording of Unipark's speech. He played it again. And again. And again. Something was wrong. He could feel it. In the following days, Tay watched as humanity kept their promise. Human ships left council ports in perfect order. Human workers collected their belongings and departed without complaint. Human colonies were evacuated with military precision. Not a single human caused trouble. Not a single human begged to stay. That was what worried Tay. He had studied human history. He knew what humans did when they were angry. They fought. They screamed. They made chaos, but this was different. This was organized. This was planned. This was not retreat. This was something else. On the 30th day, the last human ship left Council space. It was a small cargo vessel carrying a family of farmers. As it crossed the border into unclaimed space, it sent a final message. "Thank you for everything you taught us." Then it was gone, and then the silence began. Every communication channel that humans had used went dead. Every relay station they had built vanished overnight. The coordinates of Earth, which had been public knowledge for centuries, suddenly led to empty space. It was as if humanity had erased itself from existence. Tayrim worked through the night, trying to trace where they had gone. He found nothing. Every trail ended in darkness. Every signal faded into void. He brought his findings to High Counselor Bren the next morning. The old Valari barely looked up from his breakfast. "The humans are gone," Bren said. "Why should I care where they went?" "Because they did not run," Tay said. "They disappeared. Completely, perfectly. Do you understand what that means? It means they planned this. For years, maybe decades. They built hidden routes, secret bases, shadow networks, all while we laughed at them." Bren finally looked at him. "What are you suggesting?" Tay felt cold. "I am suggesting that we made a mistake. We thought silence meant surrender. But humans are not like us. When a human goes quiet, it does not mean they have given up. Then what does it mean?" Tay thought of everything he had learned about humanity. Their wars. Their hunters. Their predators. "It means they are hiding," he said. "Waiting. Watching." Bren laughed and returned to his meal. "You worry too much, analyst. Humans are primitive creatures. They probably killed each other within a week. Forget about them. The galaxy is better without their noise." Tay bowed and left the room. But as he walked back to his office, he could not shake the feeling that the galaxy had just made the worst mistake in its history. The humans had not made noise when they left. They had not screamed, or threatened, or fought. They had simply smiled, bowed and vanished, and somewhere in the darkness between stars, Tay knew they were still out there, waiting. The silence was not peace. It was patience, and Tayrim was terrified of what would happen when that patience finally ended. 5 years passed. The galaxy moved on without humanity. Trade routes adjusted. Other species filled the jobs that humans once held. The Valari built new monuments to their greatness. The Torun expanded their corporate empires into the abandoned human territories. The Crush found new enemies to fight. Nobody talked about humans anymore. They became a footnote in history books, a failed species that could not handle the real galaxy. Children learned about them in school as an example of what happens when a primitive race tries to join civilized society, but small things began to go wrong. It started with the mines. The Torowan Mining Corporation owned an asteroid belt in the outer regions. It was one of their most valuable properties, filled with rare metals worth more than some planets. They had been extracting resources from it for 200 years. One day a survey ship arrived for a routine check. The captain, a fat Torowan named Voss, expected to spend a boring week counting rocks. Instead, he found nothing. The asteroids were still there, but they were empty, hollow. Someone had cut into each one with perfect precision and removed every gram of valuable material. The work was so clean that it looked like Art Voss checked the security logs. No ships had entered the area in months. The automated defense systems had detected nothing. The sensors had recorded only silence. He reported his findings to the corporate headquarters. They sent investigators. The investigators found no answers. They accused Voss of lying. Voss swore on his family name that he was telling the truth. The case was closed without explanation. The company lost billions. Nobody was punished because nobody knew who to punish. 3 months later, the same thing happened to another mining operation. Then another. Then another. Resources vanished like smoke. Ships found empty rocks where treasure should have been. The Torowan economy began to shake. But the mines were not the only problem. On the frontier, The Kresh military maintained a chain of outposts to watch for enemies. Outpost 7 was one of the largest, home to 3,000 warriors and enough weapons to destroy a small moon one night. The outpost went dark, communications stopped. Sensors went blind. For 6 hours, Outpost 7 was silent. When contact returned, the commander sent a confused report. Nothing had happened, he said. No attacks. No malfunctions. The power simply went out and came back. But when they checked their armory, they found it empty. Every weapon was gone. Every missile, every rifle, every knife. 3,000 warriors had slept through the theft of enough firepower to start a war. The Kresh High Command was furious. They interrogated everyone. They searched every ship that had passed through the sector. They found nothing. Ghosts, one old warrior muttered. We were robbed by ghosts. His commanders beat him for speaking nonsense. But the word spread anyway. Ghosts. The Valari had their own problems. Their merchant ships were the pride of the galaxy, beautiful vessels carrying goods between 1,000 worlds. They traveled in convoys for safety, protected by armed escorts and the latest detection technology. Ships began to disappear. Not in battles. Not in accidents. They simply vanished. A convoy would enter a jump point with 10 ships and exit with 9. No distress signals. No wreckage. No bodies at first. The Valari blamed pirates. They sent warships to patrol the routes. The disappearances continued. They blamed the Kresh. The Kresh denied involvement and pointed out that their own outposts were being robbed. They blamed the Torowan. The Torowan were too busy dealing with their empty minds to care. Fear began to spread through the galaxy. Something was out there, something they could not see or catch or understand. In his office on the council station, Tayrim collected reports. He was no longer a young analyst. 5 years of stress had turned his fur gray. He had been promoted 3 times, not because anyone valued his work, but because nobody else wanted his job. Studying ghosts was not good for a career, but Tay had found patterns. He spread his evidence across a holographic display. Locations of missing ships, dates of robbed outposts, records of stolen resources. The attacks were not random. They formed a web across the galaxy. Someone was taking specific things from specific places. Military weapons, industrial materials, communication technology, medical supplies, and every attack happened in perfect silence. Tay had also found something else. Fragments of intercepted communications, whispers caught at the edge of known space. Most of it was garbage, but one phrase appeared again and again. Operation Quiet Years. He did not know what it meant, but he knew who was behind it. The humans had not died. They had not disappeared. They had been working. Tay found more evidence. A Torowan executive who had sold shipping schedules to an unknown buyer. A Kresh officer who had provided patrol routes in exchange for untraceable credits. A Valari politician whose debts had mysteriously been paid. The humans had not just been stealing. They had been buying, bribing, building networks of traitors and spies across the entire galaxy. Tay compiled his findings into a classified report. It was the most important document of his career. It proved that humanity had been operating in council space for years, unseen and undetected. He brought it to High Counselor Bren. The old Valari read it slowly. His silver face showed no emotion. When he finished, he looked at Tay with tired eyes. What do you want me to do with this? Tay stared at him. Act, warned the council. Prepare defenses. Find them before they finish whatever they are planning. Bren shook his head. You want me to tell the galaxy that we have been infiltrated by primitives? That humans have been robbing us blind for 5 years while we notice nothing? Do you understand what that would do to our reputation? With respect, High Counselor, reputation will not matter if enough. This is speculation, paranoia. There is no proof that humans even still exist. The proof is in your hand. Bren dropped the report into a disposal unit. It vanished in a flash of light. Go back to your office, analyst. Find real enemies. The humans are gone. They are not coming back, wanted to argue. He wanted to scream, but he knew it would change nothing. He bowed and walked away. In the corridor outside, he stopped at a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere in that vast darkness, humanity was hiding, building, planning. They had been patient for 300 years under the Council's rule. They had been patient for 5 more years in the shadows, and Tay knew, with absolute certainty, that their patience was running out. The galaxy had forgotten about humanity, but humanity had not. Forgotten about the galaxy, and when they finally emerged from the silence, Tay knew that nothing would ever be the same. He returned to his office and began copying his research to a secure location. Someone had to remember the truth. Someone had to be ready. For what was coming, even if no one would listen? Commander Hannah. You stood on the bridge of the silence, a ship that did not officially exist. The silence was the flagship of the human ghost fleet. 200 vessels hidden in the dark space between stars, invisible to every sensor the Council had ever built. For 6 years, Hannah had commanded these ships. For 6 years, they had moved through the galaxy like shadows, taking what humanity needed and leaving no trace. Today, that mission was complete. Hannah looked at the holographic display before her. It showed 40 star systems spread across Council space. Each one was marked with a green light, indicating that her teams were in position. Her second officer, a young man named Wu Jin, approached with a datapad. All units report ready, Commander. Operation Whisper can begin on your order? Hannah nodded slowly. She had waited years for this moment. They all had send the signal. Wu Jin pressed a button across the galaxy. Humanity struck, but not a single weapon was fired. On Torowan Prime, the central hub of galactic commerce, the morning began like any other. Traders shouted prices. Ships loaded cargo. Credits flowed from account to account in endless rivers of wealth. Then the networks crashed. Every screen in the financial district displayed the same thing: files. Millions of files. Corporate records. Secret accounts. Hidden transactions. The files showed everything. They showed how Torowan banks had stolen money from smaller species for centuries. They showed bribes paid to Council officials. They showed fraudulent contracts that had bankrupted entire worlds. The evidence was undeniable. The evidence was everywhere. Within hours, the Torowan stock market collapsed. Banks closed their doors. Riots erupted in the streets as citizens demanded answers. Corporate executives fled in private ships, only to find that their secret accounts had been frozen. The Torowan economy, the backbone of galactic trade, shattered like glass. On Kresh homeworld, the warrior clans were preparing for their annual war games. It was a sacred tradition, a chance for young warriors to prove themselves, and for old leaders to display their power. Then the messages arrived. Every clan leader received a package of evidence showing that rival clans had betrayed them. Secret alliances, assassination plots, stolen territories. Each package was perfectly crafted to confirm the worst suspicions that each leader already held. None of it was true. All of it was believed. Within days, the war games became real war. Clans that had been allies for generations turned on each other. Cities burned. Fleets clashed in orbit. The Kresh military, the most feared fighting force in the galaxy, began destroying itself. By the time cooler heads tried to restore peace, the damage was done. Millions were dead. Trust was gone. On the Valari homeworld, the ruling council gathered for an emergency session. They had heard about the chaos among the Torowan and Kresh. They believed themselves safe. The Valari were too wise, too careful, to fall for such tricks. Then their own secrets were exposed. For centuries, the Valari had maintained a hidden surveillance network. They had spies in every government. They recorded every conversation. They knew every secret of every species in the galaxy. Now everyone else knew too. The evidence appeared simultaneously on every news channel, every public network, every communication device in Council space. It showed Valari agents manipulating elections on dozens of worlds. It showed recordings of private conversations between foreign leaders. It showed blackmail files on thousands of officials. The Valari had built their power on trust. In one day, that trust was destroyed. Species that had been loyal allies demanded explanations. Trading partners cut ties. Military coalitions fell apart. The Valari ruling council tried to deny everything. But the evidence was too complete, too detailed. Too perfect. Commander Hannah watched the chaos unfold from the darkness of space. Her ships had not entered a single system. Her weapons had not fired a single shot. Her soldiers had not killed a single enemy. But she had one. Humanity sends its regards, she whispered to no one, on a creche prison station. A human spy named Jin Beek waited in his cell. He had been captured 3 months ago during a reconnaissance mission. The creche had tortured him for information. He had given them nothing. Now a creche interrogator stood before him, his face twisted with rage. "Tell me," the warrior growled. "Tell me how your people did this. Tell me the plan." Jin smiled through broken teeth. "You want to know our strategy? I will tell you. It is simple." The interrogator leaned closer. "You taught us," Jin said. "For 300 years, you taught us that power means nothing without trust. You showed us that empires are built on alliances and trade and cooperation. You laughed at us for being weak, but we were paying attention." Blood dripped from his mouth. "We did not attack your fleets. We did not bomb your cities. We killed your trust. We turned your friends into enemies. We made you doubt everything you believed." The interrogator struck him. Jin fell, but kept talking. "And the best part? You still do not know who among your own people works for us. That general who gave you bad orders? Maybe he is ours. That advisor who told you to attack your allies? Maybe she is ours. You will never know. You will never be sure." Jin laughed. It was the laugh of a man who had already won. "We are everywhere. We are nowhere. And every time you look at someone you trust, you will wonder." The interrogator killed him. But the words could not be killed. Within hours, the speech spread across the galaxy. It was shared on secret channels. It was whispered in dark rooms. It reached every species, every government, every military command, and everywhere it went. It planted the same seed. Doubt the Galactic Council convened an emergency session for the first time in 50 years. High Counselor Bren stood before the assembly. He looked old. He looked tired. He looked afraid. "We must find the humans," he declared. "We must demand answers. We must make them pay for what they have done." The delegates agreed. For once, there was no argument. But then someone asked the obvious question. "Where are they?" Silence fell over the hall. The coordinates of Earth had led to empty space for 6 years. No one knew where humanity had gone. No one knew where they were hiding. Tay-Rim stood in the back of the chamber watching. He had tried to warn them. He had begged them to prepare. They had ignored him. Now they were paying the price. After the session, Bren found Tay in the corridor. "You knew," the old Valerie said. "You knew this was coming." Tay nodded. "I told you." "You did not listen." Bren was quiet for a long moment. Then he asked, "What do we do now?" Tay looked out the window at the stars. "We wait," he said. "We have no other choice. They will come to us when they are ready. And when they do, we had better hope they want to talk. If they do not want to talk..." Tay thought about the chaos spreading across the galaxy, the collapsed economies, the civil wars, the shattered alliances. Humanity had done all of this without showing their face. "If they do not want to talk," Tay said quietly, "then we have already lost." West, somewhere in the darkness between stars, "Commander Hannah, you received new orders. Phase 1 was complete. Phase 2 would begin soon, and when it did, the galaxy would finally see what humanity had become." The human assembly gathered in a chamber. Carved from an asteroid at the edge of known space, 12,000 representatives sat in rising rows. Their faces lit by the blue glow of a holographic display. They had come from hidden stations, secret colonies, and fortress worlds scattered across a region of space that the Council had never mapped. For 7 years, this had been humanity's home, a kingdom of shadows. Built in the cosmic dead zones where no one thought life could survive, Admiral Daquan walked to the center of the chamber. He was an old man now, his hair white and his face lined with decades of war. But his back was straight and his eyes were sharp. He had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. 7 years ago, he began, we left the galaxy in silence. They laughed at us. They called us cowards. They said we would die in the dark. He looked at the assembly. 12,000 faces stared back at him. We did not die. We grew. The holographic display changed, showing a map of human space. Hidden stations appeared like stars being born, shipyards, factories, military bases, agricultural worlds, research facilities. We built an empire in the shadows. We created technology they cannot imagine. We trained soldiers they will never forget. And we did it all while they thought we were gone. They touched a control, and the display changed again. Now it showed the galaxy, the real galaxy, with Council space at its heart. For 6 years, we have operated among them. We have mapped every defense. We have infiltrated every government. We have planted agents in every military. We know their secrets. We know their weaknesses. We know exactly how to destroy them. He paused. But destruction was never the goal. An old woman rose from the front row. President Suli was small and frail, walking with a cane that clicked against the stone floor. But when she spoke, her voice carried the weight of 300 years of suffering. I was a child when my grandmother told me about the old days, she said. Before the Council, before the taxes and the insults and the humiliation. She told me that humans once dreamed of reaching the stars because we wanted to find friends. We wanted to learn and grow and share. We thought the universe would welcome us. Her voice hardened. We were wrong. The universe taught us a different lesson. It taught us that kindness is weakness. It taught us that hope is foolish. It taught us that the only thing aliens respect is fear. She looked at the assembly. Today, we teach them fear. Daquan nodded. Operation Daylight is ready. Our fleets are in position. Our agents are standing by. On my command, we will reveal ourselves to the galaxy. Not to attack, not to destroy, but to show them what we have become. He raised his hand. For humanity. 12,000 voices answered as one. For humanity, across the galaxy. In 47 star systems, human ships powered up their engines. They had been hiding for years, drifting in asteroid fields, orbiting dead moons, floating in the void between stars. Their stealth systems had made them invisible to every sensor the Council possessed. Now those systems went dark, and humanity appeared. On Valari Prime, the jewel of the galaxy, citizens were going about their morning routines when the sky changed. One moment, the orbital defense grid showed clear space. The next moment, 300 human warships hung above the clouds like steel mountains. People screamed. Children cried. The planetary defense systems powered up and immediately received a message. Do not fire. We are not here to attack. The ships did nothing. They just floated there, massive and silent and impossible. On Tora 1 Prime, still recovering from economic collapse, 200 human vessels appeared above the financial district. Each ship was bigger than the largest Toroan cargo hauler. Each ship bristled with weapons that military analysts could not identify. The Toro 1 military scrambled fighters. The fighters reached attack range and stopped. Their sensors showed that the human ships had already locked weapons on every major city, every military base, every orbital station. One move, and the planet would burn. On the Kresh homeworld, torn apart by civil war, human ships appeared above the battlefield. Both sides stopped fighting. Warriors who had been trying to kill each other moments ago stood side by side, staring at the sky in disbelief. A Kresh general broadcast. A demand for the humans to identify themselves. The response was a single image. The Earth. blue and green and beautiful, with a simple message beneath it. We remember everything you did to us, in the Council Station, orbiting Nexus Prime. Alarms screamed through every corridor. High Counselor Bren stumbled onto the observation deck, still wearing his sleeping clothes. What he saw stopped his heart. A human dreadnought floated outside the windows. It was the largest ship he had ever seen, a monster of metal and fire that made the Council Station look like a toy. Its hull was covered in weapons. Its engines glowed with contained fury, and painted on its side, in letters taller than buildings, was a name. Patience Tayrim appeared beside him. The analyst looked calm, almost peaceful. "I told you," he said quietly. "I told you they were coming." Bryn could not respond. He could only stare. Then every screen on the station flickered. Every speaker crackled, and a voice spoke clear and cold and human. To the Galactic Council. "This is Admiral Daquan of the Human Defense Force. 7 years ago, we left your galaxy in peace. You did not follow us. You did not apologize. You celebrated our departure," the voice continued. "During our absence, we have watched you. We have learned everything about you. We have built forces that match anything you possess. And we have positioned our fleets above every world that matters to you." Every screen showed the same image. Human ships hanging above alien cities, alien stations, alien homeworlds. Thousands of vessels. An armada that had been invisible for years. This is not an invasion. We have no desire to rule your worlds or take your resources. We have built our own empire, and it is enough for us. This is a negotiation. You have 72 hours to agree to our terms. If you refuse, we will demonstrate what happens when humanity stops being patient. We will not destroy your fleets. We will not bomb your cities. We will do something much worse. We will release every secret we have gathered in 7 years. Every lie, every crime, every betrayal. We will show every species in this galaxy exactly what their leaders have done. And then we will watch as you tear yourselves apart. The choice is yours. You have 72 hours. The screens went dark. Silence filled the Council Station. Bryn turned to Tay with wild eyes. This is impossible. How did they build all of this? How did they hide for so long? How did we not see them? Tay looked at the dreadnought outside the window. Its weapons were pointed directly at the council chamber. "Because you were not looking," he said. "Because you believed your own lies about humanity. Because you thought silence meant weakness." He turned to face the High Counselor. Silence was never weakness. It was strategy. Every day we ignored them. They grew stronger. Every year we forgot about them. They planned deeper. They used our arrogance against us. Bryn grabbed Tay's arm. "What do we do? How do we fight them?" Tay pulled free. "We do not fight them. We cannot fight them. They have spent 7 years preparing for this moment. They know every move we could make before we make it." Tay looked at the stars beyond the dreadnought. Somewhere out there was humanity's hidden empire, a civilization that had rebuilt itself in the darkness, fueled by 3 centuries of anger and 7 years of patience. "We listen to their terms," Tay said, "and we pray they are merciful. Merciful. They are humans, primitives. They do not understand mercy." Tay shook his head slowly. "No, High Counselor. They understand mercy perfectly. They simply choose when to give it." He walked toward the door. "And after everything we did to them, I would not expect them to choose us." The countdown began. 72 hours, the galaxy held its breath, and humanity waited in silence, watching their enemies realize that the war had been over before it started. The 72 hours passed like a fever dream. Across the galaxy, governments argued. Generals demanded war. Merchants calculated losses. Citizens stared at the silent ships above their worlds and wondered if they would live to see another sunrise. The Kresh wanted to fight. Their war chiefs screamed for blood, for honor, for revenge. But their fleets were scattered from the civil war. Human ships watched their every move. The Toroan wanted to negotiate. They understood numbers, and the numbers were clear. Humanity held all the cards. Better to make a deal than to lose everything. The Valari wanted to delay. They sent messages to the human fleet, asking for extensions, for clarifications, for time. The response was always the same. The countdown continues. In the end, they had no choice. On the 72nd hour, the Galactic Council voted to accept humanity's invitation to negotiate. It was not unanimous. 3 species voted to fight. They were outvoted by the 12 who chose survival. President Sfu Li arrived at the council station aboard a small shuttle. She came alone, without guards or advisors. She wore simple clothes, a gray jacket and dark pants, the kind of outfit a farmer might wear. She walked with her cane, each step slow and careful. The council chamber had been prepared for her visit. Every delegate was present. Armed guards lined the walls. High Counselor Bren sat in his floating chair at the center, trying to look powerful despite the human dreadnought visible through the windows behind. Himsu entered the chamber and walked to the center platform, the same. A platform where Unipark had said goodbye. 7 years ago. She looked up at the delegates. Creatures 10 times her size stared down at her. Warriors who had killed thousands. Merchants who had bankrupted worlds. Politicians who had ruled empires. She smiled. "You look afraid," she said. Her voice was soft, but carried through the silent hall. "Good. Now you understand how we felt for 300 years. Bren leaned forward. "President Lee, you have made your point. Your ships surround our worlds. Your threats have been heard. Now tell us what you want so we can end this madness." Sue nodded slowly. "Very well. Our terms are simple." She lifted a datapad and began to read. "First, full recognition of human sovereignty over our new territories. The region you called the Dead Zone is now the Human Republic. You will not enter our space without permission. You will not attempt to spy on us. You will respect our borders as we respect yours." The delegates murmured. The Dead Zone was vast, larger than some council species, entire empires. But it was space they had never wanted anyway. Second, reparations for 3 centuries of economic exploitation. We have calculated the value of resources taken from human colonies. Taxes collected unfairly, and trade agreements made in bad faith. The total comes to 4 trillion credits, to be paid over 50 years. Now the murmuring grew louder. 4 trillion was an enormous sum. But spread over 50 years among the wealthiest species in the galaxy, it was survivable. Third, equal representation on the Galactic Council. We will have the same voting rights as any major species. Our ambassadors will be treated with respect. Our concerns will be heard. This caused real anger. The Valari delegates stood. Equal rights? You are one species. We are dozens. You cannot expect to have the same voice as civilizations that have existed for millennia. Sue looked at him calmly. We do not expect it. We demand it. Or would you prefer we release those files we mentioned? The delegate sat down. Fourth and final, a formal apology broadcast to every world in the galaxy, acknowledging the injustices done to humanity. The apology will be read by High Counselor Bren himself. Bren's silver face flushed with rage. You want me to apologize? To admit fault before the entire galaxy? Do you know what that would do to our reputation? Sue's smile faded. I know exactly what it would do. It would tell the truth. It would show every species in this galaxy that even the mighty can make mistakes. It would give hope to every race you have oppressed, every world you have exploited, every people you have dismissed as primitive. She stepped closer to Bren's chair. You spent 300 years teaching us that reputation matters more than justice. You were right. And now, your reputation is in our hands. The chamber was silent. Then a voice spoke from the back of the room. We should accept. Every head turned. Tayrim stood among the advisors, his small form barely visible. Who speaks? Bren demanded. I do. Tay walked forward. I am Tayrim. I have studied humanity for 15 years. I warned you about them when everyone else laughed. I was right then. I am right now. He stopped beside Su Li. The human president looked at him with curious eyes. These terms are harsh, Tay continued. They are humiliating. They will cost us money and pride. But they are not destruction. They are not slavery. They are not genocide. He looked at the delegates. Humanity could have destroyed us. They had the power. They had the right after everything we did to them. Instead, they are offering us a chance to make things right. To build something new. To prove that we can be better than we were. He turned to Bren. If we refuse, they will release their information. Our governments will fall. Our alliances will shatter. Our species will turn on each other, just like the Kresh did. And humanity will watch us burn. If we accept, we lose money. We lose pride. We admit we were wrong. But we survive. Our children survive. And maybe in time, we earn something we have never had with humanity. Trust. The chamber was quiet for a long moment. Then slowly, delegates began to nod. The Toruin were first. They understood costs and benefits. Then smaller species joined, ones who had suffered under council rule and saw hope in humanity's demands. Finally, even the Volari agreed. Bren looked at Su Li with hatred in his eyes. You have one human. Are you satisfied? Su shook her head. No, I am not satisfied. My grandmother died in a Toruin labor camp. My parents starved because of your trade policies. I have carried their memory my whole life. She leaned on her cane. But satisfaction is not what I want. I want my grandchildren to live in a galaxy where no species is dismissed because they are young. I want humans to walk on council worlds without being spat on. I want peace. She looked at the delegates. I want you to remember this day. Not as a defeat, but as a lesson. Power is not everything. Patience is not weakness. And those you dismiss as primitive may become your greatest challenge. She turned to leave. We will send the formal documents for signing. The broadcast will happen in 1 week. I expect your full cooperation. She walked out of the chamber without looking back. 1 year later, Tayrim stood at a memorial on the border between human and council space. The monument was simple, a wall of names. Humans who had died during the quiet years, killed by accidents, discovered by patrols, or lost in the darkness of space. There were thousands of names. Tay had come at the invitation of Admiral Daquan. The old human stood beside him, both of them looking at the wall. Was it worth it? Tay asked quietly. All those years in the dark? All these deaths? Day was quiet for a long moment. Yes. I used to ask myself that question every day, he said. When I sent ships into danger, when I received reports of agents being captured, when young soldiers died for a plan they might never see completed, he touched one of the names on the wall. My daughter is on this wall. She was killed during Operation Whisper. She was 23 years old. Tay did not know what to say. I will never stop missing her, Day continued. I will never stop wondering if there was another way. But when I see human children walking freely on council worlds, when I see human ambassadors sitting as equals in the Great Hall, when I see the galaxy learning to respect us instead of laugh at us, ... He turned to face Tay. Then I know her sacrifice meant something. All their sacrifices meant something. They did not die for revenge. They died for the future. Tay nodded slowly. Humanity has changed everything. The council will never be the same. Neither will humanity, Day said. We learned something in those silent years. We learned that the loudest species are often the weakest. They shout because they are afraid. They threaten because they cannot deliver. He looked at the stars. The ones who say nothing are the ones you should fear. They do not need to announce their strength. They simply use it when the time is right. Tay thought about that. He thought about all the years he had spent trying to understand humans. He had read their history. He had studied their wars. He had analyzed their behavior. But he had never truly understood them until now. Humans were not loud. They were not boastful. They did not need to prove their power with words. They proved it with patience. And the galaxy had finally learned to respect that. As the two walked away from the memorial, Tay asked one final question. What happens now? What does humanity want next? Day smiled. It was a tired smile, but there was warmth in it.
How we build.
We trade, we learn. We grow alongside you instead of beneath you. He looked back at the stars one last time. We make sure that no species ever has to suffer like we did. We make sure that silence is never necessary again. Tay nodded. They walked into the light together, an alien and a human. Former enemies becoming something new, and across the galaxy, when species spoke of humanity, they no longer laughed. They whispered, with respect, with fear, and with the beginning of something that might one day become friendship. The silence had ended, but its lesson would echo through the stars forever.